Okay, so we're recording this on Monday, which is a little bit earlier than normal, and it is all about the fact we had a great tournament at the weekend. So Saturday, the 7th of May, was Dorset Dungeon Bowl 2022, because I guarantee, unless, something completely out of left field, like a global pandemic or something
No,
hits.
no tempter.
I know, right? Then we'll be running at least one more dungeon event next year. It was DDB. It was our Dungeon Ball tournament. We had 40 coaches turn up out of the 44, including Trips as our spare man coach. Turned up, and it was an absolutely awesome event. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how the tournament went. We've got Ian here. Ian Hannam. Say hi, Ian. How are you today?
Hey, yeah, I'm good, thanks.
So Ian has joined us now to talk about his day there, and we got Milton, who came across from the Isle of Wight to play as well, and we got Ben and Ian as the TOs to kind of talk through the whole event. So Blood Tithe Ben as the score master on the day. How was the tournament structured? Oh, Ben, I don't know if it's just me, but I think you may be.
I was on mute. There we go.
There you go.
Look at that. Yeah, so we had 3 rounds with 2 different dungeon layouts. So round 1 and round 3 were following on one layout. Round 2 was on a different layout. So you kind of mixed it up a little bit, and people got experience in round 3. We were running kind of a unique score system, which we kind of decided would help move games along and stop people from kind of stalling out games in kind of a really harsh way, which you kind of can do in Dungeon Bowl if you really want. So we had bonus 10 points if you got a fast win. So if you won within an hour, you get an extra 10 points. So it encouraged people to really kind of go for the ball and, get it going and get the games going. We also had a bonus 10 points if you had a slow loss, though. So if you are playing a more defensive list and you feel like it's going a bit downhill, you can kind of grind the offense to just, encourage you to just, not just give up. So you get a little bit out of that. So yeah, it was really good fun. I think it went down pretty successly. I think
it definitely encouraged those games along. You're right.
Yeah, it was. I think from what we could tell, it was about 50-50 for slow wins and fast wins. Like when the results were coming in, you had a lot of fast wins. Some of them were really quick. And then it was probably about the cutoff was about 50-50, so I think that kind of worked well. We had 40 points to win. Oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say it was just about half, which was really cool to see. Sorry, you carry on.
Yeah, no, I was going to say it. So it's 30 points for a win, 10 points for a draw, 0 points for a loss with those bonus 10 points. 20 points, sorry, for a draw with the bonus 10 points for fast win or slow loss. So yeah, so it really was all to play for. We also had some bonus points of 3 points for each casualty, up to a maximum of 3, so 9 total. And you also got an extra point for every chest you opened during all 3 games. So that could really add up, because that was like an extra potential 18 points to play for. So could kind of swing it, which I think it kind of did in some games.
There was a couple of coaches that were there going absolutely gung-ho for the treasure chest. But the thing is, with our normal tournament structure, actually our point system works really well. It's +3 per touchdown, +3 per casualty, capped at 3, and then perfect defense. Well, casualties exist in Dungeon Bowl. Nothing else does, so we needed something else to kind of encourage it. And from our Dungeon Bowl games, the 2 things that kind of flagged up was this can stall to a grind, and then there's no impetus to win quickly, which means it's just not fulfilling at that point. And the other bit was actually once the ball has been found, why would you bother opening any of the other chests? So we chucked in that as well to say, actually, you know what? You can still farm points here, and hopefully kind of encourage the rosters to build, actually I want these guys to run off and get the treasure chest while my main force does this, to add like another strategical element to list building and the way the game's panned out. And I think it was all right for that. I think it worked in that regard.
It was great. Yeah,
it worked. Yeah, it worked.
But talking about rosters and the buildings of it, obviously Ian and Milton played, but Trips also came prepared. So Trips, what was the roster rules for the event?
So nice and simple roster rules. So it was a 1 million build, and it was basically any team that were in the Blood Bowl rulebook and the Dungeon Bowl colleges. So we deliberately picked the colleges as well as normal teams to encourage people to take a college team, but also not make everyone have to run around and buy 3 boxes of Games Workshop miniatures to make sure they had a team. It being Dungeon Bowl, all the colleges come with a wizard, so they all got their wizard, but everyone who bought a normal team got to choose a wizard as well. But as a bonus, college teams got an extra free reroll, and then there was just this nice simple skills package, no tiering for Dungeon Bowl, so 4 primary skills, 1 secondary skill, and no star players.
Yeah, no star players. Although, in hindsight, that would have been quite entertaining, but it was literally just to stop Hackflem and Griff from just running around. As entertaining as that might be, it seemed a bit dumb.
When you only can score 1 touchdown, that's like pretty harsh.
Yeah, we saw some people build their own Hackflem with the 2-headed gutter runner, which is always going to be a massive threat. But yeah, we capped it at 1 million. What we tend to do with our tournaments is make them as similar to kind of league as possible, so that you can go and play a few games with a team that you might be tempted to take out in league. When it comes to our tournaments events, actually, it's limited-ish skills, 5-6 skills, and about 100k extra, which is where you're likely to be by game kind of 5 or 6 of a league team. So it kind of ties into that quite nicely. And the same is here. Like, we went with 1 million because actually in Dungeon Bowl you start with 1 million, and we got that extra reroll for Dungeon Bowl teams because they are used to playing in a dungeon, but actually it's to balance out the fact that everybody gets a free wizard and standard teams could choose, so they had that extra flexibility, whereas the Fire College takes the Fire Dude, which is the Fire Dude always. They don't get that flexibility. Not sure why you wouldn't want to take the Fire Dude if you're the Fire College, but it just created some great opportunities to attend a Dungeon Bowl event. If you don't have a copy of Dungeon Bowl, you don't have a Dungeon Bowl team, you don't need to build a Dungeon Bowl team. You can just grab your Goblin team, take a Beast's Wizard, and have a really good time, which genuinely happened. I know. I thought it's such a cool combination. I love that. I thought that was a pretty good mix. We'll talk through the teams that were there in a minute, but I mean, Milton, you've built many Dungeon Bowl teams now, or at least 2 that we've actually featured on the channel. So thank you very much for letting us use that. Which team did you run with and why?
So I took my Heavens team, and there's a bit of a backstory to them. So what was it? Must be about 3 years ago now.
Selling everyone.
The Blood Tithe organised Hangover Bowl for us, where we split a sprue each and made 7s teams out of them, and I got humans and lizards. So I had the basis of a Heavens team already from that, and they were already painted up, and all I needed was the skinks, which you kindly printed some for me. I think they were Brute Fun.
Yeah, Brute Fun skinks. They're awesome models.
So yeah, I actually got quite a few comments on the day from people, like saying, "Oh, those are really nice. They're so dynamic." So yeah, no, they're really lovely minis, and put them in, made up my Heavens team, and yeah, I also have a metal team, which
I love the metal team, which is going to be on the game this weekend. So if you're a Patreon, watch out for that Saturday morning. If you are not, it will be going live Sunday morning. College of Beasts against Milton's College of Metal, run by Miltonio Banderas himself. Although not featuring Miltonio Banderas, who does feature in your Heavens team, your prime blitzer.
That's where Miltonio Banderas is. He is the blitzer. So yeah, the team was called Miltonio Banderas and the 3 Wise Saurus. They are Blockerus, Dodgerus, and Guarderus. I did appropriate skills.
They kind of sound like Pokemon.
They do. They are like green, yellow, and blue, so they look a bit like that.
I walked past the table at one point, Milton, and you were like, "Yep, these are my guys. Green for guard, blue for block, yellow for dodge." I was like, "Yeah."
Yellow for yeet himself out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeehaw.
I was like, oh, yellow because of cowardly. I was like, yeah, that works. But no, it's cool. What was in the team? And what did you go with the skills wise?
So my team consisted of the 2 nobility blitzers, the 3 Saurus, 1 thrower, and 5 skinks. The thrower had wall thrower. As I've already said, the Saurus had block, guard, and dodge, and I took dodge on one of the nobility blitzers.
Yeah, you can't be a bit of blodge, especially in Dungeon Bowl. No, wicked, really cool team. And it's great to be able to take an old project and just filter it into Dungeon Bowl.
I think that was the most exciting thing for me. Like I cemented that roster on, and then was very surprised about just how many Heavens teams also joined us.
Yeah, we'll talk about the meta and our meta expectations in a second. But Mr. Warhanam Hannam decided to join us at an event. First time in the tournament, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was brilliant shop. Yeah, I was glad to have lots of time to look around. And
humble brags.
Well, you know.
Or not. So, Ian, what team did you take and why?
Yeah, so I took the College of Life. Similar sort of thing to Milton in a sense, because I'd already had the Halfling team painted up. And I didn't have too much kind of notice because it was kind of a bit of a last minute sign up a couple of weeks beforehand. So I just thought, okay, well, I can take these and then look at what's on the roster, build out the rest of the roster. And I kind of ended up really getting into it and kind of theming it all around this kind of idea of like, you know, the moot, and it's all kind of halflings and trees basically. So my elves were dryads from Warhammer or Age of Sigmar, kind of old school wood elf range, and then the what else did I do? Oh, some snotlings as well, which I made into kind of little saplings. I call them. They're like little tree people, which is quite fun. So yeah, I kind of limited myself to almost kind of like half the roster. I kind of left out the Nurgle side of it, which, you know, on reflection, I think Nurgle do have a lot to offer. But it did mean I could kind of just really focus on War Dancer and War Dancers and Friends, really. This is kind of what it seemed like.
What did you go with skills wise for the roster?
Yeah, so I had 2 War Dancers. One of them had tackle, and one of them had sidestep. Sidestep in Dungeon Bowl, I think, actually is really, really useful.
I was going to say tackle is like a primo choice as well, surely.
Well, you know, I knew Dodgerus was about. Needed something in case we ran up against
plus, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, again, I kind of knew that lots of people would be taking Blodge and stuff. Yeah, so they worked out pretty well on the War Dancers, those skills. It's kind of one of those where you kind of wish you could put all your skills on your War Dancers, because there's definitely points where I thought I could have really done my strip ball here, which is the kind of classic War Dancer skill, isn't it?
We did have no stacking at the event, just to stop people like Ian.
Such a meta gamer with my 2 tree men.
I know.
So coming on to my 2 tree men, the goalies.
Yeah.
Solid strategy, I reckon.
Yeah, actually, it was
not out of choice.
No, it was more, they were done for the halflings and they fit the theme. So I had one with block and one with brawler. So block was my double. Ultimately, they were pretty much wasted skills, really, because the tree men were kind of all about presence and just being there and looking pretty. We did have game 2 was hilarious, actually. It came down to the wire. It's such a good game.
Oh, you had people gathered around in that game.
Yeah, we had the tree man holding the line at the end.
I'll see if I can put the montage up over this in the finalized video, because there is actually a little video, and then all the guys are around the table.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
Cool. I'd love to see
just a quick bit, I think.
It was one of those where, you know, everything that could go wrong went wrong for both players, and then eventually it kind of managed to squeak through. I ended up doing a blitz with a tree man and then trying to get onto the ball, and it's just.
I remember walking past your table and you were there moving your tree men, and I was like, "Oh no,
something's gone wrong.
This has gone horribly wrong." Yeah.
And then finally, I had a halfling with diving tackle.
Diving tackle is an underrated skill, especially on stunties.
I think it's really good in the normal halfling team, where actually you're not too limited by movement 5, because you can kind of get across the pitch. In Dungeon Bowl, it's harder to get where you want to be with a slower piece like a halfling. Yeah. So didn't really come into play, but you know, maybe it made people think a bit.
Yeah, like why does this halfling have a skill?
Like, hang on, what does he know that I don't?
I think there was definitely an element of that. So yeah, so you went with the College of Life. I've got to say, I think props for the roster. I think Treeman feel a bit subpar, but actually there's a really obvious thing to do with them that I'm pleased nobody. I think nobody did, which was 2 trees with guard and 2 bloaters, and literally just stacking the actual end zone with that. And just making it strength 6 and strength 5 to get in, which I was a bit worried about. And I think after playing some of our early games, especially I think the one with you and me, Ben, with the College of Fire, I was just like, oh man, I need some Drano for this because this is clogged up. I thought the College of Life is with a combination of war dancers and potentially guard trees with bloaters could have been horrific, but everyone seemed to want to build proactive and aggressive rosters. I thought that was
I think maybe because that fast win, maybe like that could have maybe helped.
Do you know what? We will come to that, but I still think that's positive. I really, really do. So rosters on the day, we had 40 teams in, and what do we have breakdown wise? So meta wise, Milton, I think you kind of touched on this earlier. What team did you expect to be the most popular?
Well, I actually thought that Fire and maybe Shadows would probably make more of an appearance on the fact that they're in the box.
That's reasonable.
Like, my assumption was people would have gone out because the only way to get the rule book and the pitch is in the box, and so I would have assumed people had gone out and bought the box and therefore had those teams and that they would be the most popular to run. But yeah, a little bit surprised about actually what did turn up, and nicely surprised. We got quite a variety, didn't we?
Oh, it was a real interesting split. Now, bear in mind that we allowed people to use their normal teams because we wanted people to just come and play. Like, don't worry about building a Dungeon Bowl team. If you've only got a Skaven team, you're going to have a great time. Bring it along. If you've only got Khemri, stay at home. But I mean, when we had that in Mind Trips, I mean, what kind of amount of team people do you think would bring a Dungeon Bowl team instead of like a regular team?
I was suspecting it was going to be about half and half. I thought we'd see quite a lot of the starter box set, and I thought we'd see the usual suspects who went through the bits and pieces boxes to make some teams.
Or paint them in the morning, Joe.
Yeah, yeah. I do not think if we could have guessed for 20 days consecutively, we would not have got the team split and the teams that came along right in any way at all.
No, definitely not. So breakdown wise of teams, we had well, I'll tell you what, we'll go from the bottom up. We go College of Light 1, Dwarves 1, College of Beasts 1. That was a last minute over the line. Dan Maskell kind of popped his roster in on a Friday night. It was the only college that was not represented at that point. I was thinking, oh, poor Beasts. Then boom, Gerger came in, not running Dark Elves this time, which I thought was personal growth. Elven Union 1, Slan 2, which makes so much sense with the whole leap aspect. I was chuffed. I love seeing Slan teams around there because I love Space Frogs. And they should be in there more. 2 Colleges of Death. Now, out of the 44 coaches that were originally rostered, Dan couldn't make it. He was running College of Death, and Trips, you as the kind of spare man, were also running a College of Death. So it was kind of 4 College of Death. And then the most populous team that was not Dungeon Bowl was 4. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I was not expecting 4 Goblin teams to rock up. 10% of the field was Goblins.
I remember saying to Ian, you wouldn't even expect that at a Blood Bowl tournament.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect it either until I actually came up against them and then realised why.
Yeah, hang on, these secret weapons aren't getting sent off.
Yeah. I was like, hang on a second. They're not going anywhere.
And this is why I was so interested by the dwarf team, which I think was Vindaloo. I'll do a check in a second. But Death Roller not being sent off meant yeah, it was Vindaloo. It meant you could kind of roll with it, and yeah, I know, right?
Nice.
And kind of snuck that one in there, and not get sent off. So it's probably the only time you can use a death roller and have it be a good choice. However, he did then run it with sneaky git and managed to still got sent off for like the first turn of two games. I came round to game 2 and he was like, it's been sent off again. I was like, oh, come on, come on.
As long as he broke the armor with that, was it +2?
No, I think it was a double 4. Absolutely brutal.
No.
5 College of Shadows and 5 College of Fires, which Milton, I think, sticks to your point. The College of Fire looked like a tank roster, and when we were kind of looking and playing our first games and looking at it, we're like, well, this is pretty sweet. Like, you've got ogres for the bashing, you've got dwarves for the cancelling of anybody remotely having fun, and then you've got like your own little bit of stunty, and then all of a sudden, thinking about it, you've got some cheap frenzy there with the Marauders in there too. I mean, Ben, your College of Fire team features Marauders and no dwarf linemen, because there's a lot of flexibility with that roster. I love that team, by the way. It was very good. Although I've realised I've still got I've got the Troll Slayer actually in my display cabinet because I used it for a size comparison in a video. And I just kind of looked up and I was like, oh, that's from Ben's Fire team.
You realised I was missing?
No.
I think I didn't have to run it on the.
No, you would have been one dude
Hey,
short.
hang on, where's my Slayer?
You could have just done what Rick did. Yeah. Yeah.
Steal your opponents.
I love that. 5 colleges of metal as well. Now, again, College of Metal, the College of Blockers and Blitzers was always going to be a solid piece. And then 6 colleges of life, which I guess War Dancers?
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to a few of the other guys who were taking life, and yeah, at least a couple of them were basically in the boat of, we've got a Wood Elf team already, and given that you can take the linos, the throwers, and the War Dancers, that's kind of the core of your team if you want to just go Elf plus a bit more.
Yeah.
And then they just maybe snuck in a Nurgle player or two to kind of round it out. So it's quite a friendly roster if you've already got a Wood Elf team. And there is a few of the colleges that are a bit like that, aren't they? You can basically completely base it around
one
a
team
box,
or another,
and then just chuck in something for flavour, which is really nice, actually.
Yeah, that's bang on. And then College of Heavens was tip top for the day there with 7 rosters of College of Heavens, which I think I wasn't expecting that many Heavens, although from playing our games, the Heavens roster is a pretty good one. And Milton, I know you and I kind of had a chat about whether you should run Metal or Heavens, and from doing some play testing, you decided that Heavens was the good call, and actually it's a really potent roster. The skinks are just the superstars.
Yeah, I mean, you've got plenty of strength in the Saurus. You've got like good solid ball carriers with the nobility blitzers, and then the movement with the skinks is just so good. That movement 8 you can get anywhere so quickly, which is such a big thing in the dungeon.
Yeah,
like,
and they're kind of cheap, right?
Oh,
so
yeah,
you don't really mind
cheap.
blowing up yourself on a chest to try and get the ball, I guess.
Yeah, but in a funny way, that also worked against itself, because in the slower games, you lost out on the attrition because they're weak, and the more you lose them, like the less guys you've got in the dungeon, and the slippery. That's a very slippery slope, I found.
That's it. If you don't Leroy Jenkins it, your reserves are strength 2 stunties.
Yeah, that's what I found with my roster, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
It was desperate when you were bamfing a snotling in.
Yeah, come on, little guy. Let's go through it. Now, I tell you what, let's actually touch on the first games now for the guys. So Milton, do you remember your first game and how it went?
Yeah, so my first game was against College of Metal team.
This was Frodo, I think, wasn't it?
Frodo, yes.
Yeah.
Who'd come down from London, I believe. And yeah, it was a great game. It was really... Well, I thought I was going to lose very quickly. So he got extremely lucky with the fact that the ball was in his first chamber, which was where teleporter 1 was, and he went on the teleporter and went straight to 6, which is next to my end zone. in like the first or second turn, and that meant the ball was pretty much like walking distance from scoring within like 2 turns, and that was really frightening. And somehow managed to get the ball off him, get it on the floor, and it basically just wrestled around that area for the rest of the game. So it was hard to come back against the metal team. So once the ball was free and we knew where it was, and everyone was kind of trying to, maneuver their way around that, coming up against that wall of like high armor, high strength players was difficult. And of course, the Heavens Wizard is great against low armor, not so great against high armor. So the Heavens Wizard basically has a chain lightning spell, and the first thing you do is you pick a target square, and the player that's in it, you roll an armor check for them, and then whether or not that succeeds, it doesn't matter. You then roll 1d6 again, and on a 3-up, you chain the lightning to another player within 2 squares, and you just keep doing that. You roll another armor check, and you then roll another 1d6, and you just keep going and going and going and going. Of course, like that pays off great against like stunties and low armor players. I suspect that would have worked really well against College Life or like one of the elf teams, but coming up against the high armor teams, it wasn't great because you're looking at like 9+, 10+. The odds aren't in your favor.
There was 2 goblins on Frodo's team, and I doubt they would have been in the vanguard. Had 2 blitzers, one with tackle, one with dodge, 2 bodyguards, both with guard, 2 human linemen, 3 black orc brawlers, an orc thrower, and 2 goblins.
Yeah, so it was managed to not let the game go. He didn't go in for a fast win, I don't think. I think we went into slow territory. It did go on for quite a while once that ball had got free. And I was kind of hoping to turn it around. I had the ball, it was all going well, and then he just made some he got himself a good quick win with his orc thrower of all the pieces to trash me with. Was a proper like step in the
I did think that.
Got him up, blitzed, and did 3 dodges, I think. 3-up dodges with the thrower, and got into the end zone with it. So, but no, well played by him. He did play well, and it was a great team, and it was a great match. Really enjoyed it.
Some seriously good stories coming out of this. How about you, Ian? Do you remember your first round?
Yeah, played a really nice guy called Neil. And
Not
he had his goblin team.
Yeah, Big D's Lucky Stunts.
That's the one, yeah. And he how do I say this? He showed me Big D, which was a coach model that a mate had made from him. It was an orc, kind of with a torch thing. It was quite funny.
He had a troll, 9 goblins, an hooligan, a pogoer, a fanatic, a loony, a bomber, and another troll. So 2 trolls.
Yeah. So
Fire wizard.
it was a great fun game. Yeah. Managed to kind of war dance it home. Thankfully, it was a quick win for the College of Life. But no, playing goblins is always a laugh. We had a good standoff between my fungus flinger and his bomber, kind of edging toward each other in the middle of the corridor, only for my fungus flinger to blow himself up when he finally pulled the trigger. That legendary guy, he has not had a good record so far. I think
Really?
I'm paying for all the times I've tried to sack yours, Ben.
Yeah, right. I did bring this up against your round 2 coach, because like just I put the fungus flinger out in the Bonehead Championship against you, and honestly, you fixate on it more than Ben does on Hackflem, and at least Hackflem's worth 200k. His poor Snotling's worth 20k, and he's like, right, everybody go, he needs to die, and the revenge of Nuffle.
I had quite a funny moment as well, just the random teleporter. He stood his chainsaw next to a teleporter, and of course, when I brought my thrower on, where does it go? Hi. Yeah,
Oh, that's fantastic.
but yeah, no, I managed to kind of just break through quite early and leap and dodge through and score. So yeah, no, it was it always feels a bit of a shame to win too quickly when you're having a good game, sort of thing, and particularly when not all the players are on the pitch yet, because it kind of feels like cutting the
Unfinished.
fun a little bit short. And it's quite interesting with you were saying about the scoring earlier, is that I managed to open the ball in the first chest.
Yeah, you scored 41 points, which is
so
a
it's like-
fast win and a chest.
So it was literally a quick win in a chest, and then didn't manage any casualties, or I didn't actually have the luxury of being able to slow down and open chests because I was going to get murdered by bombs and chainsaws and fouling and all of that fun that comes with it. But no, it was a good fun game.
No, wicked. I mean, I think this is probably a good point to actually talk about the fast wins. Because I mean, Ben, when you and I kind of talked through the rule set and played some games, it was basically our first couple of games of Dungeon Bowl, especially that first fire one, wasn't it? It was like, we need to find a way to make this more gamey. I think was probably a best way of saying it. And we thought of actually other Dungeon Bowl events in the olden times had a time limit. But the way they did it was after X minutes, the ball reveals itself, essentially. We thought, well, actually, what could encourage not the stall game? Like, because when you and I talked about it, and when we were talking about League specifically with Dungeon Bowl, it's like, once the College of Fire has the ball, why would they want to do anything other than just murder for an entire session until they need to
get in a corner surrounded by people and then just kill the team?
And literally at that point it's just the Spartans at Thermopylae, because you're just set and your opponent's just throwing themselves at the wall. They're killing themselves and the fire killing themselves. So we talked about, actually, what if we got bonus points for that win, but also gave the defender bonus points if they survived the first hour. So if it kind of gives that better mix of an outcome. And we'll talk through how it actually went, and then I'd love to get everybody's kind of thoughts on there we go, I've lost my data tab. Here we go. So fast wins, this is slightly inflated, so I think it came to about 36 on the day. There was 41 games that finished with 40 points or higher, but some of those games will be multiple casualties and treasure chests and stuff. So I think it was about 36 fast wins, which was it's like 10. I think it was 10 the first round, 11 the second round, and then the final round, absolutely people hooned it through. Which was
they want to get home, get those brownie points.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what? We had a couple of coaches that were like, "Hey guys, it's still over an hour left to go. I don't think I'm going to win anything. Is it all right if I get gone, because I can get home early then and like you say, and get some brownie points?" So just which I think was like really polite and really nice of them to say, but I think more than fair enough at that point.
Yeah,
like,
I tried, but it turns out the host was driving me, so
yeah,
it kind of backfired.
No, you're clearing. You can carry things. So fast wins. We had an Elven Union coach turn up and got 2 fast wins. This was absolutely wicked. This was a real good story of the day. College of Metal got about half fast wins. College of Shadow, a third fast wins. Everybody else basically got 1 in 3 fast wins on the day. With the College of Light being the only one who didn't get any fast wins at all. But otherwise, it turned out that about 1 in 3 fast games was where everybody landed up. I mean, Milton, do you remember how many fast wins you got on the day?
Yeah, just the one.
And how many did you lose? Was it just the fast win in the game?
Yeah, no, I didn't have. Yeah, I didn't lose to any fast wins. I had 2 slow losses.
And Ian, looks like you got.
I had 2 fast wins and 1 slow loss.
That's not bad.
No, it's good. That's against the odds, actually did all right.
No, exactly. I mean, Ben, and you Trips. What did you think what did you expect from the timings wise?
I think I expected, honestly, some faster wins. From the games that we're kind of like played and seen, I I sort of saw you can get it really fast. I think the fact we didn't have too many super fast teams probably contributed to that. I think if we saw more, maybe lights, Mel's, maybe some of like the, classically fast teams in Blood Bowl, I think that might have been a little bit different. But I think, I think I was quite surprised how much it kind of went towards the middle and averaged towards, kind of a slower fast win or a faster slow win. I think that was what I found surprising. Yeah,
It's too late for this.
Yeah.
This is big brain stuff.
We should have probably timestamped the game so that we could have done a scatter map of the entry points.
I know it was quite consistent because I was never, when you like tapping the scores in, there was never really a moment where they all came at once. So it was quite steady.
There was like one in the first half hour, and then 2 up to 45 minutes, and then 3 45 minutes to an hour or something, like, maybe a bit more, and then like 2 at the end of the round or something.
Probably really would have been a nice bell curve.
Yeah, exactly. I think I can probably get it from the Google history, actually. So
maybe, actually.
Let's see how exciting my meetings are tomorrow. I mean, Trips, did you say the same?
Yeah, I'd say the same. I think the time limit for the hour, and everyone was very aware of it. And I think sort of the 50 to 60 minutes point for the first game, those who could win were probably doing the stretch play or desperately trying to do it because it was worth so many extra points. But I think Ian's point is a good one, that if you had the ball and the chance to win as a fast win, you had no option but to do it, because by nature of trying to win fast, you were in the position where slowing down in any way at all was going to take away the opportunity of a win.
Yeah, when the reserves start coming in, it turned out it ended and went the complete opposite of what I expected it to go to. And I'm going to bring this back round to Ian and Milton in a second, because the way the map system worked, we had the first map, then we changed maps to second, and then we went back to the first map again for the third. Now, I thought the first round would be the fastest because people would leave gaps that they didn't think were gaps, allowing a lot more quick wins in that regard. And then I thought, well, people are going to take that. The second map's going to be new, so fair enough. But they're going to go back to the third map, having 2 Dungeon Bowl games underneath their belt, having seen things, having experienced their teams, and will be able to provide a better defense. What actually happened was the first 2 rounds were about consistent, and then the third round, people are like, you know what? Here's a cunning combo. Let's blitz through here and do this, which was actually pretty sweet. And some of the stories that were coming out were so good. Like, I can't remember who it was who said this. I think it was Ben, wearing the Wild Hunters t-shirt, which I thought was an absolute lad, going mad with his war dances there as well. He was like, yeah, I managed to sneak through. I got the ball carrier, and then the College of Shadow used their wizard to teleport the assassin over there right next to my ball carrier to go for a quick stab, turned over the ball. And I'm like, dude, that is just a wicked story. But like, there's just so many cool combos that came out of it. But it was not.
The wizards themselves just completely changed and made some of those games.
Most definitely. Now, guys, like Milton, Ian, you lived the event, you experienced the event. What was it like going through the process of changing maps, Ian? Like going from the first one to the second and then back again?
As in the physical act of just putting one on top of the other.
well, thanks to Trips, we nearly forgot that going into round 2. Yeah.
No. Yeah, to be honest, I didn't really prepare in terms of making a plan. I think I had learned from at least one practice game about the kind of the fact that you can really cut corners, and particularly through those doorways. It's more open than the map suggests, so I definitely went into it with that view, so I didn't feel like I really got gotcha'd, at least.
That's good. That's good. We just wanted to add a bit of variability without like changing things up too much. I mean, Milton, did you've played quite a bit of Dungeon Ball with us already, but when it came to the feel of the tournament, was that a good experience, do you think, having the different maps and then returning to the third one? Or would one map all day have been fine, or would 3 maps have been better? What do you reckon?
I don't know. I think the switch was nice. It totally threw me though. Like I felt like the second map played better into the hands of, well, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like it maybe played better into the hands of the higher strength teams because there was a little less way you could kind of maneuver your way around it. So it's a bit more corridored, but having that variety is definitely good in the tournament environment. I think being able to mix it up and like change like that was really important. I think if we'd had the static one run the whole way through, it would have left a very different feeling. I think people would have got, like you say, by the time they came around to it in the third round, they would kind of familiarize themselves with it, and they might have got there by the second game, and then the third game would have been really different. So no, it was nice to have that swap out. But
Yeah,
the second one threw me completely because I just got my head into like game zone and I was like, here we go. Oh, now we're in a different dungeon. Okay, what have I got to do now?
like I think as well from a player point of view, just picking up on what Milton's saying, it's nice to go in without that kind of like, this is how I set up.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you play Blood Bowl, you've got your standard pitch, and you kind of, once you've played your team for a bit, you kind of know what formations you're going to use against what teams, roughly speaking, don't you?
Yeah.
But in Dungeon Bowl, it's completely different because there's a lot more to consider. So yeah, no, it was nice not going into game 3 thinking I've played 2 games on the same map already. I know what setup works.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. And like from the off, I was basically like, "Ooh, what do I do? So many options. Just like I'll run a Saurus up there because why not? Like I don't know any better.
It's fine. He's got dodge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's great. He can go anywhere.
Dodge, guard stands in the way. Now, Ian, you talked about Wizards a second ago, and we allowed the regular teams the opportunity to kind of switch up and play with different Wizards. What was it about the Wizards that added that extra element of what?
Yeah, so I think kind of one of the things which maybe is a slight negative in the kind of the rules themselves, and for someone who's not that familiar with the game, obviously once you play you get used to it, but every wizard has slightly different timings on when it's used. So I did just have to kind of keep having to ask and making sure I was, you know, all over when each wizard could be used, because you know I don't want to create any feel bads when you're like, oh, actually, you should have said that in my turn, or you know, anything like that, or for me to announce or having planned this awesome play and then be told, actually, no, you should have done that before you moved your first guy, or you know,
Yeah, get blue
all that
wizarded.
kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, there's a little bit to kind of just make sure you're really solid on. So there's that. But yeah, no, in terms of the actual effects of the wizard, yeah, I think they're relevant in every game I played in the end. So the life wizard, for anyone who doesn't quite know, is in your opponent's turn, at the start of their turn, you pick one of their players, and it basically gets boneheaded, so it can't move or activate in their turn, and it loses its tackle zone until their next turn. So I mean that just pairs up perfectly with you know, fast players like your war dancer. If they've got a kind of obvious goalkeeper, you can just be like, "Yep, I'm walking past you. Great."
Yeah, I think the Wizards are the most complex piece of the rules. I mean, Trips and Ben, I mean, we'll talk about rules queries, you know, in a little bit. But I mean, was Wizards one of the things that you would have said rated highest on the questions?
No,
No.
I don't recall any wizard questions. I think it was all dealt really well, which is really good to hear that Ian said that, because I would assume other coaches were doing the same if that's the case, because like there were no queries about just like, oh, when does this wizard activate?
I think it was I think there was lots of queries at the table, but because it was in the rules, it didn't have to go beyond the table, if you know what I mean.
Right, that's good.
I was toting a rule book around, and I Trips said it right up at the beginning. He was like, right, I have bookmarked the Wizards bed, it's on the table.
Yeah,
I did the same with my
it
rule
would
book.
come up.
Yeah, and I did kind of, there was quite a few like, I want to get the timing of this one right, which makes a lot of sense, because that is one of the points of conjecture when it comes to Wizards, is that this one can be used at the start of your opponent's next left turn, but only on Tuesdays unless it's Wednesday, really. And you're like, okay, yeah, no, sweet, I get that. And then I think, you know, it does add an element of complexity, but they all feel pretty decent. I mean, what do you reckon, Trips?
Yeah, I think so. And I thought we'd get more rules queries on the Wizards. I had quite a few in the run up to the first game. I think when people were just checking their own Wizard, and I think most people knew their Wizard quite well. And it's the classic. There are other wizards. I don't know what that wizard does, but my opponent will tell me what it does when it does it.
YOLOing. I like it.
And most of them are a one-time use. So, what was really pleased to see was that most people didn't forget the wizard, because I know in some of our practice games we got to the end and you're like, oh yeah,
I really should have used that wizard.
Yeah,
I think that's very, very, very fair. I mean, BT, where the teams like the normal teams were allowed to take wizards, what did you expect the most popular auxiliary wizard to be?
I expected more death. I think we saw quite a lot of beasts, which we did anticipate, because that one is really good. But the fact that the death one is just like a injury roll, I think that's really tempting to take. Did any of the other teams take the death wizard?
No, I don't think so.
No, yeah.
No, it was just the death teams.
Just the death teams took the death wizards.
I think maybe the thing with the death one is that was conditional in terms of you've got to be in a tackle zone, haven't you?
Yeah, there's a
Whereas
setup.
quite a lot of the others are quite global.
Yeah,
Just
that's true.
any player on the pitch.
Yeah.
Kind of
Okay.
It's a great wizard, but it's tailored down slightly by you have to be in a marking player, but you are. There's no after that. There's no like if but what roll.
Yeah,
this, do
so
that.
I played Death in my last game, and he just never got a chance to use it, unfortunately.
Right.
I mean, Trips, but before the episode, we were talking about maybe having a bit of a higher or lower episode. Fire, Shadow, Heavens, which is the highest out of those, do you reckon?
Fire, probably, because it's a simple wizard.
Yep.
I think it's the most similar to the wizard people know, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, Milton,
And it's still pretty effective.
That brought up a point of question in the day, didn't it, about the fireball wizard?
Yeah.
Because
I think it came back to like the activations thing as to like when they're supposed to be.
Because it's so similar to the standard wizard. One of the players flagged up that actually the wizard from Blood Bowl had been FAQ'd, but obviously the Fire College, being in Dungeon Bowl land, although it is May now, so there should be an FAQ anytime soon, but I would bet money that there's not a lot of clarification in that. It was difficult. But yeah, Fire and Shadow, both 8 wizards on the day, and Heavens with 7. So that's 15 of the wizards there out of the 40 were basically just first strike capacity. And I think the best bit for me was, I think it was Rick's game 1, Fire versus Fire, 2 very lovely looking teams, and that was probably the first point. They were like, just double check the wizards here, and it was like, oh yeah, this is happening, then this is happening. I was like, oh, this is mutually assured destruction then, because it's at the start of your opponent's turn. So I was like, oh, going first is really important. You're going second. What are you going second for? And I was like, oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. You go first, I nuke you. Then you go, then I go, and you nuke me. And I was like, oh, mutually assured destruction. But yeah, we saw fire wizards going off. We saw the electrocution things. But Rick came back and said, you know what? The fireball was really good for me to save for later, even though that alpha strike was there, which I was expecting a lot of, because let's not lie, guys, when we've been doing Dungeon Bowl, it's been like, right, before the start of the game, let's see who dies. It's like, this is the wizard version of Normandy in this regard. It was just kind of like, who's going to survive to get into the fight. It was cool to see them being used in different ways. But yeah, the fire one I think was the most logical one. But Shadow, did you guys play against any Shadow wizards?
No, I just heard the tales.
So +3, so 3 fire wizards were taken by non-fire colleges, and 3 shadows were taken beyond the shadow colleges, which I do like, because the shadow one, where you can just redeploy 5 squares unless you have the ball, huge. And I know this from running the college of shadows. It's so important to you and can give you that opportunity to just appear the other side of those blooming fire ogres and get a chance.
Like mega leap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then I leap over you. We will come to the Richard Saxby Leaping Dwarf story in a bit as well, because I think that was pretty.
Such a tease.
So, rules, queries, trips. What did you have thrown at you on the day?
So I think leap was the biggest single rules query because there's just you don't see a lot of leaping in normal Blood Bowl, but leaping in the dungeon seems to be almost every turn deal. I think every game had multiple leaps in all over the place. So yeah, lots of.
Now,
I leap here?
Not just leaping, but also jumping. So not just the players with the leap skill. Trips is alluding to the fact that if a dude is prone, you can jump over them, which you don't see happen in Blood Bowl very often at all. But when you knock a dude down in a corridor and the only thing to do is to fly over him, you got to take it. So it's a really good shout. And yeah, it's not a brilliantly worded rule, is it? I remember coming over, I think it might have been to your table, Ian.
Yeah, we had a really head scratcher.
Oh, they are round the corner one.
Round the corner. It was a definite. The logic says this.
The rules
but
say
the rule
this.
says this.
Yeah. I would be surprised if that won't get FAQ'd as well.
Some serious Matrix moves going on.
Well, it was nicely explained away by a coach saying that on the next table over, just looking me dead in the face, was like, parkour. It's just parkour. And I'm like, okay, yeah. And I'm like, right, immediately there, the American office, parkour. And there's this, because it's kind of like, can you leap around a corner? Well, you leap to a square adjacent to a square you're adjacent to. And if that kind of goes around a corner, even though there's not necessarily line of sight, it doesn't feel right, which is why the question came up. But then, of course, if you go to the fluffy thing of like, actually, the frogman jumps to the ceiling and then DBZ style bounces back off. And it's like, okay, yeah, all right, I'm fine with this.
I think the big thing is, would Peter Jackson let Legolas do it in a movie?
That's the criteria that you.
Well, we don't have Primarchs in Dungeon Bowl. As in Space Marine Primarchs, but yeah, could Legolas do it? Yes, then fair enough. Are you saying we need giant elephants in Dungeon Bowl, Ian?
Yeah.
All right.
They still only count as one on your roster.
Nicely played. The jumping around the corner was definitely a one. I mean, Ben, did you have any other rules queries that kind of came up on the day?
What was the one that came up? We had one that came up constantly. I was trying to think what it can't have been that often.
Can you re-roll a teleporter? Came up.
That was it. Yeah, it's the re-rolling teleporter.
If you have Portal Navigator, yes. If otherwise, no.
That's a question of a desperate man, I think.
That was quite a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Please, can I be somewhere else?
Yeah. Oh, it's a 5 again. That's the third gutter runner that's gone into the teleporter.
But we did have the spot prizes in each round be, losing someone to a teleporter. So
yes, kindly donated by Brute Fun. We had a whole bunch of Minotaurs. His excellent star player Minotaur. We printed off 12 for the day, and we were like, look. First few people each round who goes into a teleporter and does not come back out again of your own volition, you win a Minotaur for losing at Dungeon Bowl. And actually, it was pretty cool. It was great fun to be like, you got the spot prize, and the shouts came up and the carnage came up.
I had one in my opponent in the second game. Third game actually blocked one of my players into a teleporter. Chose to follow him in and went missing.
And won a Minotaur.
So that was fun.
Steps out the other side in Mars, and he's like, "Hold on a minute."
Hang on. Someone did that with the Goblin as well, because they got promoted. Basically, the Goblin went away and got replaced by a star player Minotaur, essentially. And I was like, "You've done well here. You've done very well here." Now we'll talk through the winners of the day very, very quickly, but. On the Dorset Dungeon Bowl page of the Bonehead Podcast website, the coach list, the team list, the rounds, the scores, the final standings are all available up there. We kept it live throughout the day so the coaches could just log on to the website if they wanted to see who they were playing or what the standings were. And we had them kind of rotating on our television. Who says television? On the TV on the desk. I was wearing my running shoes and using my telephone on the day, and it kept everything kind of nicely lined up. Right.
I think when we mentioned about the round 3 being slower than you expected, Ben, I think the standings actually may have influenced that because people could see how much they needed. to, or may have needed to get the wins. So they may have been grinding the slower games to get more casualties and
It's a
maybe.
tricky one.
chests and stuff
We
like
were
that.
talking in the car actually, Ben, on the way home, weren't we, about what you'd be better off doing, because obviously you've got that 10-point quick win bonus. So you have to really balance up if you are trying to play it. I wasn't quite good enough to be playing it. I was just like, if I can score, I'm going to score. But can you make up 10 points easily enough through casualties and chests?
Yeah. I
There's
don't
a gamble to it, isn't there?
I don't
Definitely.
think you could. Now, I've got a question for you guys in a minute on the scoring system and what we think we could do, what we could tweak to make it a little bit more competitive, potentially next time. But on the day, we had a bunch of great coaches here. Now, we've got a mixture of real names and NAF names. Ben did a really great job on the morning of asking people how they wanted to be listed on the day, because actually NAF names are a really cool thing, and some people have had them for decades now, and it's like,
I think my NAF name is like my kind of school email address. It's really embarrassing. So
yeah. So we had first place, we had David Lyons Dalio at 129 points, which was that was a really exciting couple of rounds. So Dave found himself on the top tables a couple of times, and it was just that top table experience of watching those games and going into the last round. There was trips 6, 8, 10 coaches that were within a big win.
Yeah, all the top 5 tables could win. I think something like the top 14 technically could mathematically win, but realistically the top 10 coaches could win, and tables 4 and 5 knew that, like even saying, you going into the last round, that a fast win alone wasn't going to be enough. It had to be a fast, violent,
bunch of draws,
chest opening win.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm really happy with how the scores came out, because I remember going into the third round, we had James Priest and Dave Lyons, who were in that kind of ballpark, and James Priest finished his game with a quick win and put him into first place, and it was all kind of down to table 1 at that point, which was really, really close. But Dalio pulled it off. So it was Dave Lyons with 129 points, James Priest going 3-0 on the day. The Priest clan are absolutely love them. They always come ready to play. They nearly didn't come because they couldn't. They didn't have a copy of Dungeon Bowl, so they built their own set. They sent it into Whip Wednesday. It was so good to see, and they crammed some games in, and just James knocked it out of the park. Tepic came third with 120 points, which was a really solid effort. Ben Brissenden, Wild Hunters represent, absolutely war danced his way into the top there as well, finishing 119 points. We had Grunlock all the way from Germany.
Yeah, that's cool.
Now, I'll admit he was there on a kind of holiday and stuff, but I'm not going to take that away from him, because going to Ireland and then coming over to us to play a game was awesome.
A fair old commute. Yeah.
Well, he said to me the only reason he even bothered to have a holiday was because of the tournament. That's what kicked it off.
Well,
so
look,
it was kind of the reason he was there.
I don't know if his partner's listening, so I was kind of
oh right. I just dropped a minute.
I was kind of covering for the dude, but yeah. Yeah, and I think that's awesome. We had Dubious Mongoose go 106, Frodo with 100, Ian Warhannaman 97, 8th place. Ian, that's very respectable.
That's right,
yeah. Greenskin Phil 96 points, Jamie Mortimer 95 points, Mr. A, who put in an absolute champion effort on the day there with it was College of Fire versus College of Fire on table 1 in the last round.
That's a hard game.
Yeah, that was a close fought one there. And Drew at 12th with 90 points. Kevin Mitchell 89. He had some fun games of the day. Lurpak there 87 was right in it until the last round with Elven Union. I think was maybe 3rd place going into the last round. And he couldn't believe his luck. Didn't fail a go through it on the day, which apparently is his special ability, is to fail go through it all of the time.
Make him
But,
play Norse. See what he does then.
Oh, yeah. North Spain,
Yeah.
the 2 on the dice. We had, I think, our second Goblin coach. I love this roster. This is Merc Girl Emma coming in 15th with 84 points. We had Petzel at 81 and Gerger at 80, who brought the only College of Beasts roster and was, again, one of the top, I think, top 8 going into the final round. Big Mech Milk 79, Kaijin Chicken 79, Goblin Scorcher 74. Didn't scorch enough goblins. Tom Man 21st, Vindaloo 72 points 22nd, Venerable Gamer 63, Toxic 6. 24th place with 59 points. David Thompson 58 points. Daniel Ellis 57 points. Master Wiggins, the Popper Priest of the clan, 55 with Slan, which I loved. There were 2 people there with Slan, and lovely teams. Rick, our friend Rick with College of Fire, 53 points. Richard Saxby, who definitely needs to be discussed in the highlights in a second, 51 points with Sarah Jane Priest, the other Priest clan. Daniel Martin had a horrible game too. Absolutely got dungeon rolled. Who's I think it was our Bombamba champion. Metin Somnes 43 points, Killer Randall with 40 points, Thomas Wilson with 40 points, Andrew Burridge with 39 points, Richard Alderson 38 points, Joe Solo with 37, Neil Doherty after suffering at the hands of Ian Hannam 32 points, Gary with a legendary roster full of snotlings. I think the only stunty Dungeon Bowl team there took only Stunty Cup eligible players. Absolute hero of the game.
That's cool.
And Simon Thomas was our participation award winner on the day, having hopefully a nice time down at the bottom in 40th place. But it was
At least he had fun.
at least you got a token.
Well, I think you need to shout out Joe because first game he actually scored 0 points.
Yeah.
He did.
Yes.
That's quite an achievement.
As did poor Saxby in the final game.
Oh no!
Did he get zeroed as well? Oh,
Yeah, he got a very, very fast loss, which was very disappointing.
Oh, at the hands of Papa Priest, actually.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was Richard Alderson.
No, it's Daniel Martin.
Oh, both.
Oh,
of
yeah,
them.
no, that was Joe Solo. It was Hands of Greenskin Phil. in
Oh
the final
yeah.
game.
Oh yeah. We had a couple of zeros, not too many.
No, because I
Um,
guess most people are at least able to open a chest.
Yeah, but I think the top scoring round was Greenskin Phil. Greenskin Phil in round 2 scored a 50-pointer,
Wow.
which was an absolute. I think it was four chests and 2 casualties. Absolutely racked up the points there. I mean, the most you could get was 55, right? 6 treasure chests and 3 casualties, plus a fast win, 55 points. So that was a heck of a swing, like jumping straight up the leaderboard there. Thinking, considering the finalist was 129 points, just absolutely chonky. But I mean, this is the best point to sort of say, amazing job, everybody. Like the teams were great. The thought that went into it was just unnecessary, and I couldn't be happier about it. And who was the second slam? Oh, Tom Mann with the beautifully executed tentacle team representing Slam.
10 tackles.
Yeah, I love that.
So
Got to see it on Wednesday being built as well. So it's so wicked to see the team like rocking up there. It was absolutely superb. So yeah, we had the winners there. We had Dave Lyons take the Everything Cup, and then it was Greenskin Phil with the Stunty Cup, wasn't it? And we had some great other nonsense there with all the stuff. But that brings me to the best team award. And while we do have a friend of the show, a multiple award-winning painter, Ian Hannam here, we had 40 teams at the event, and I think we had 35, 36 best team votes or something like that. It was nearly everybody. We did our best to try and corral everybody, but quite frankly, given how many teams got at least 1 vote, Trips?
So it was
18 teams of the 40 teams there got a best team vote.
Which I think is well deserved. There were some absolutely wicked teams out there, and I'll put the little montage video up of the best teams over this segment, just interspersed. But yeah, pepping them to the post though was Mr. College of Life here, Ian. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
Um,
No, I was very chuffed. It's actually
Back in form.
first Blood Bowl hobby awards I've had, actually. So I was really
Is
pleased with that.
I thought you
Yeah.
had ones.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It does help when you go to Blood Bowl tournaments. It's
that's-
definitely definitely a recommended strategy.
Oh, I've been to a
You
few.
can put it on top of the pile of all your Age of Sigmar ones.
Yeah, hopefully you go home and look at like the 2 months it took to paint loads of blue orcs, and then the 2 weeks it took to paint 12 life dudes, and go, well, you know what, Blood Bowl's a much
Well,
better,
no,
much
to be
better
fair,
game.
half the team was already done. So,
No, even
I was really chuffed, and no, honestly, yeah, the quality of hobby there was amazing. I mean, you've kind of the great thing about Blood Bowl and Dungeon Bowl in particular, I think, is that there's so many directions you can take it. You know, there's people that put a lot of effort into kind of really theming their team for the college if they went for a college, and then there was just some cracking paint jobs as well, which using existing kits and no particular customization, but tied together with a really nice paint job. So yeah, I think hobby was a real winner there.
Yeah, I agree. People always tend to pull out a lot of stops for our tournaments, and I think this is like one of the better college years for it. I think is probably a fair way to say. So we're going to kind of bring this segment to a bit of a close now, but before we move on, we just kind of wanted to have a little bit of a quick brainstorm about actually what do we think went really well, and what do we think could we can focus on better for next time. And I'd like to start with the scoring, because I'd really love to get everyone's opinion on this, and spent some time on the day talking to people about the timings and the scoring, and I feel like both of those are going to come up here. But I think the fast wins, the slow wins, actually, I think that went as achieved. What do you guys reckon on that?
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
In fact, the scoring overall was really good. I think primarily for the fact that it made everything so close. Like you just said, you could get a maximum of 55 points, which meant that even if you were sort of in the middle of the table, there was still a good chance of you shooting right up if you had a good game. So it gave you an incentive to keep trying, even if you sort of like lost your first round.
Yeah, you still got a ton of opportunity. Now, one tweak that I think might be worth doing for the next time would be to take the treasure chest points and make them 2 points instead of 1, to encourage a bit more of that grind. And Ian, on the drive home, we were talking about, the difference between a fast win and taking your time to farm those points. And I wonder how much difference that would have made. Would it have made your gameplay different?
Me personally, no. I think I would have. I think the problem with the chest one is because it's, well, like anything in Blood Bowl, it's based on something completely random. If you flip the right ones at the right time, I think maybe would have further, because obviously the quick win bonus allows the team that wins quick not to have to be penalized in a sense because they didn't get loads of casualties and loads of chests.
Yeah.
So I wonder if you went too heavy on the chests, whether
It would
actually
warp it a bit.
it would bring it back to winning quick as being a disadvantage again. But I don't know.
I mean,
I think I agree with that.
I saw the goal line and I was like, I'm not mucking around here.
I think when you have a potential like 12 extra points to play for, so it would make it 20 points you could get a bonus if you maxed out casualties. And no, that's not right, is it?
21 points.
Yeah. Okay, so so I think that would just be a bit too much. Like Ian said, I think it's good to encourage the quicker wins. I think 1 point is enough when you have 6 of them on offer.
Yeah, I mean the whole point of it, like Ben, you and I said, was to make sure that grind was not necessarily discouraged, but to kind of bring that gameplay to the 45 to an hour and a half mark, where actually you want to make sure that you're trying as fast as you can to win, but you also want to make sure you're trying to stop your opponent from scoring that fast win, so that it encourages that kind of middle ground.
Yeah.
and I think for the most part it did that. But I guess this brings me to my second bullet point, which was the timings. Now this was a really interesting one because we had 2 hours per round, and lots of games finished about the hour mark, right? About half the games finished with an hour, and the rest kind of petered off, which was an interesting one because, I mean, Trips, from your point of view, would you rather lose for 2 hours or 1 hour? I guess is the way of thinking about that.
Well, I think we had one draw in 3 rounds of 20 games, and that game.
Did we have any draw?
Yeah,
Did we have a draw?
Yeah, there was a draw.
One.
Oh, there was.
Yeah,
there was,
and they potentially were 2-3 turns away from an end, but the way they were rolling dice, they were potentially 2 hours away from an end. And there were, I think, both the first 2 rounds, 2 games finished in like the last 5 minutes or the last turn into overtime. I think you could trim the timing a bit. I don't think it would make much difference to the overall outcome, because I think there is a point you pass in Dungeon Bowl where you are at the sort of, it's going to be the last man standing will score the touchdown.
Yeah. So potentially a little bit of a time shave there. I mean, Milton, there was a bit of downtime for some people, and I think you know, I don't think you had to experience too much of it, but. What was the vibe? What was the feel of the room about those people who finished quite quickly? Was it positive? Was it negative? Was it fine?
I think, like, generally speaking, everyone was quite happy with the way that the games panned out, because there were still other games going on, so everyone just moved over to spectate. And you know, the environment in Toyment's such a great like shop where you can go downstairs and you can, you know, browse all the miniatures and go for a bit of a shop or grab something to eat and whatnot, that like it didn't really take away from, you know, their experience by finishing early and having that much time kind of like hanging around. I do wonder like how many people sort of finished around the 1.5 hour mark.
I think 1:45 is probably the right point. Just
that's the sweet spot.
Yeah, just to speed it up a little bit and
Yeah,
have those rounds at every 2 hours instead of every 2 hours 15, because we had a 2 hour round with 15-minute bleed between rounds to make sure there was that time for us to reset the tables and stuff. I think we could probably push it up to.
I think personally, I'd go a bit harder. I'd probably do 45-minute fast, hour and a half max, and because we had one draw, and anything that goes to that is you basically get a super slow win.
Yeah.
So super slow loss. Yeah. You get like 20 points.
Yeah.
Essentially. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's still pretty good, and it lets you grind it out if you want a little bit, and it doesn't really punish everyone else playing.
Yeah.
And then you could probably squeeze in 4 games.
Well, that was the other big question. And I got the cool thing about the rounds being a little bit longer and having a bit of that downtime is we got to chat with almost everybody that was there and sort of, hey, how you finding it? I had a great chat with Mr. Ray and some of the crew and about like, right, what do you think? Hour and a half, 4 games, what are you thinking? And I tell you what, the vibe I got was completely mixed. It was like, yeah, you could have 4 rounds, but it might be stressful. You could take it down to an hour and a half, but it might feel rushed. Like, it depends on what the vibe is. You could use this time and add more rules in, like to make it a bit more complicated or something like that. So really it's we've got a huge opportunity to flex it a little bit. But if this was the fail case, I think it was pretty good, and I think it was pretty successful as the first kind of our first attempt at making a competitive Dungeon Bowl event, where we had it laid out as fairly as possible for people. We gave the tokens to the players so that actually all the treasure chests were replaced with poker chips, so you could shuffle them, they were hidden, and they had a trap or a ball token underneath, which was magnetized, so that you could just split it up, and the maps were laid out with the treasure chests and the teleporters split so that everybody's playing on the same map at the same time, and that it's symmetrical, so there's no competitive advantage. Like, I thought that worked really well. I mean, is there anything else, Ben or Trips, you would want to change up from a TO point of view going into next round, next time?
Honestly, no, except the 4 game thing. I think that would be it. I think 4 games also might be quite interesting because where you have 1 point scoring things with the chest, and like
Adds
3
up.
points for casualties. Yeah, it really does start to like that. Really does kind of matter when the win bonuses start to sort of meet in the middle. Yeah, I think that'd be really interesting because I think that's the bit I found most interesting from the score perspective, was seeing just like, well, how many chests does that person need to open to clinch a win?
It did
Which is
come
really
down
fun.
to that, which was really good
did.
to see.
Absolutely
I
did.
was happy with that. Right, last call, guys. Highlights, trips. Was there anything you saw that was a great story or a great team or something you thought that was just awesome?
So I'll leave the Saxby story for someone else because I got to enjoy Rick from Wobble desperately fighting for a draw at the end of the first round.
Oh yeah,
He was massively pulling back players defensively, and it was like rush after rush after rush. And this was after he just killed his own ogre, trying to bring that back into play, and he managed to get like 4 or 5 players back to defend a corridor that had no one in. He of course failed the last one to get like the 2 solid lines, and his opponent then dodged through it and scored in what was an outstanding finish. I think both of them were just relieved to have finished at that point because they were it was head scratching last couple of turns.
that's College
But
of
great to see
Fire
it.
versus College of Fire there. Rick against Goblin Scorcher. Goblin Scorcher, really lovely team. Really fancy custom base as well. Really, really, really well executed. BT, any particular highlights for you on the day?
Actually, it was a highlight. It wasn't so much of a game, but it did make me laugh. So we had Gronlock from Germany who came, and when I asked him for his NAF name, he told me Gronlock, and I was like, oh, so you're bringing like the Dungeon Lord name to Dungeon Bowl, because I just think that's like the coolest name I've ever heard. And he won his first game, and then he got matched up against Mertgirl Emma, who I put on her name on the team sheet as Slayer of Gronlock. And it was like 3 minutes in, she sort of comes back and with a defeated face and hands me the list with like the name crossed out, being just like not quite. And yeah, it was like a super fast win, and it was just really sad. But I did remember that. Made me laugh.
Was it round 3 where Gronlock was matched up against Frodo? And you were just like,
I think it was.
These are epic names.
Yeah.
Oh, that
Lovely
game was
Frodo.
so tight as well.
Yeah,
game
that was 35-20.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
pretty close.
Mr. Warhammer, highlight for the day for you?
Yeah, actually, I think for me, kind of where the rounds were quite long, and I did, not to humble brag here, but I did manage to get a couple of quick wins. It was actually just really nice and a great atmosphere to go around watching a few other games, and everyone was so kind of accommodating to like, oh, do you mind if I just sit and watch for a bit? And everyone was fine, and there was no kind of sense of anyone under pressure, because in Dungeon Bowl, you're just waiting for the next wild thing to happen and everyone to cheer, really, aren't you? So it just felt like a really great kind of social event, really great social tournament, and everyone was really in the spirit of it. And yeah, it was just brilliant.
You bang on. The like getting around the tables and watching the games was brilliant. And I think round 2 was probably the best one for that. We had, because it kind of filtered down to like 3 or 4 games. Everyone had kind of gone off, grab a bite, or some people playing 7s, which was wicked to see as well. Just like, hey, let's have a pickup game.
Yeah, that was nice, actually. Yeah, I managed to get a game.
Yeah,
game
right.
in as well.
And some people just played a couple of friendly, like Kevin, I think, got a fast win in the first round. It was like, let's rack them up again. It was great to see loads of people being like, hey, let's play another game because we've got the time, which was really, really sweet to see. But round 2, we had your table going on, Ian, and there was like 6 or 7 people. There's some hollering and shouting, and I think it must have been the Andrew Burridge and Neil Doherty game over on table 16 that finished at a draw. There was a ton of players around that as well.
Yeah, so good.
And there was actual cheering.
Yeah.
It's not often you're like, there's cheering in a great way. It was really great to hear it.
Just awesome to look over and see. Like, there's these huddles of people, and like I've been there. When I was at Sand Bowl, a couple of like my games ran long because we were up on the top tables. People were gathering around and watching. There was one where I was snotting against Dark Elves in round 3, and it was so close. It came down to the wire, and everyone was there. It was just really cool. It's just such a cool environment to see that stuff. So it was wicked. It was chilled. I mean, Milton, anything for you that particularly you thought was amazing?
Yeah, definitely. My second game is probably the funniest game of Blood Bowl I've ever played. So I was up against Sarah and her College of Fire team, and it got to a point where we were just in one room. There was about, I don't know, like 10 players all in one room, and I went for the block, knocked the ball out of one of her dwarf's hands, and it bounced round the room. Must have been about 18 times. I've never rolled so many scatter dice. It was hilarious. It didn't want to end. It like kept going on. Everyone was in everyone's tackle zones. I think like everyone was rolling on a 6-up to try and get the ball. It was hitting the wall, and then it was just bouncing back onto players, and it just kept. We didn't think it was going to end. It just kept going round and round and round. Eventually, it fell out of the door. So funny. It was a really great game, and yeah, props to her. She pulled that back and beat me. She did really well in the last like sort of 5 minutes of that game. Her plays were fantastic. So yeah, no, I really enjoyed that one.
That's wicked. I did a little bit of score diving. You actually scored the third highest points, with 48 in your round 3 game, Milt.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was the 50 points, but also Venerable Gamer got 51 points in round 3 as well, which was an absolute chunk of a score, racking that up. So that's cool. Now, there are just too many highlights. It was awesome to see everybody, to see the mats out in use, to see the tokens, to have a chat with everybody at the event. Like, it was such a good day. But I would be absolutely remiss if I wasn't to mention that match between Mr. Ray and Richard Saxby, which was it round 1 or round 2?
Round 1,
round 2.
I think. Oh, it was round 2. Yeah, it was round 2.
Yeah, and just coming over and getting to see it, because Mr. Ray just basically dwarf runner with the ball. They knocked a dude over, and it was just a jump into the end zone right over a player, but he just Leroy Jenkins'd it and rolled without even doing the maths first. It was just like, right, let's go for it. Leap into the end zone, rolled a dice. It was a 5, and he just kind of looked up and he was like, "Did it work?" And they had to call me over, and they're like, "Right, jump in. What's the maths here?" And I was like, "Yeah, 5+." And he was like, "Oh my god, I won!" Like, absolutely epic moment of a flying dwarf, just going in there. And I caught up with Mr. Ray, and he was like, my entire strategy today was just to YOLO it as quickly as, but he didn't say YOLO. I don't want to defame his character. That seems unfair. But it was like, I just hoon it through the dungeon as quickly as possible. It sounds like an awesome way to play. And like Rich was like, I got robbed, but I mean, you can't defend against a 5+ flying dwarf. And we all kind of looked at each other and were like, James from our local Wobble League, who had an Age 4 leaping dwarf in the olden times, who then died, I think, that's his
first game after he got leap, I think.
But no, that was
Wasn't meant to be.
It was an epic finish. But it was just awesome to see all the teams, to see all the coaches, and it was really great that we managed to fit 40 people in tournament, and there was space for a little bit more. So if we get to run an event there again, then actually I think we did the math strips and we could maybe fit like 56 or something in.
Yeah, I think so. And we've got to give a shout out to Entoyment, who were magnificent. I think the atmosphere was great. The table layout worked really well. Everyone could get round and talk, and it was nice to see people gathering. And yeah, they kept running up food and drink for everyone as they ordered them as well. So
I love that about Entoyment. You've got the little QR code. You just scan it, and then next thing you know, Carl's just kind of bursting into the room, screaming numbers and words like panini at people. It's just awesome. Entoyment is just an unnecessarily good shop. It's just awesome. The crew are brilliant. The items are great. Their online stuff is really good. So if you are thinking about ordering something that's Games Workshop related, or just flipping anything because they've got so much stock, then go with them.
Impressed with the range. It's crazy.
It's dangerous, right?
It's first time there, and yeah, it's like the shop of dreams.
You
and stuff.
walk in and they've got some nice display cabinets, and then you walk in and there's just rows upon rows of everything. There's Kings of War, there's BattleTech, there's Moonstone, they've like all kinds of historical stuff. There's like 20 square feet of board games stacked high, and then you go upstairs and there's room for like 50 wargamers. And we didn't even use the RPG room in the end because we were going to set up on the Friday night, but it was in use and we didn't have the time. But you know, if we wanted to use that for the future as well. I mean, Milton, you and I have filmed a couple of box openings in there.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, it's wicked. It's a great store. And Trips, that's a very, very, very first shout. A huge thank you to those guys. And a huge thank you to Ian and Ben, who ran the event beautifully. That's probably the most relaxed, I think, a tournament I've ever been to or, you know, been a part of. So,
agree, yeah.
Smashing job, guys. And everybody who came, thank you ever so much for playing. Now, guys, we were going to go and talk about Dungeon Bowl, but we've talked about Dungeon Bowl for an hour and a half, so I think it's probably best for everybody's sanity if we just wrap up the show and go about our lives and consider the next tournament, which for everybody out there is in July, and it is July the 9th. And it's going to be at the Bic, and Triple Pow and Bloodside Ben, and I believe Milton is going to be helping out.
Yep.
Yeah, fantastic. It's a standard 11s event with, I think, is a slightly more powerful build than Beachhead. I think there's basically one extra skill kicking around per team, same kind of team limits, so just a bit more of a power boost. You can still take Giants, which I like. And, you know, you've got the new Norse team kicking around. I hope we're going to see some Giants there. I think 30-something tickets have already sold, but they are available on the old Entoyment website. So do book up now, and because it's going to be an absolutely brilliant event. It's just a one-dayer, but what a one-dayer. So, Ian, Milton, Trips, BT, thank you very much, guys, for joining us tonight and talking some Blood Bowl and for playing what I think is probably the best Dungeon Bowl event that I have ever been to, which is a low bar because it is one of one.
Yeah, certainly the best one.
But I could definitely, I could
favourite.
absolutely label it as the best Dungeon Bowl event that we have
And the
run.
worst Dungeon Bowl event I've ever been to.
Thanks, Ben.
Oh, you had to go there. You had
On
to
that very British bombshell, we will bid you adieu. Thanks very much for watching, guys. We'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to help support the channel even further, please like and subscribe, or come join us on our Patreon. We have early access to content. We get loads of feedback from you guys, and we try and do competitions as much as we can. Or you can get yourself some Bonehead Podcast merch on our Spreadshirt site. So if you want to support a team, especially for the Bonehead Championship, you can pick up a shirt, a mug, things like that. It all helps support the channel, and we really appreciate it. Anyway, links below. Thank you very much. Happy blocking.